timescales as yet, Krishni, although we are encouraging strongly on the cancer position that if we do achieve the fair shares or very close to at the end of this month, can we be considered for coming out of tier 1? What I would say for all of this, I do think we need to keep the same ICS regulation that approach that we've had, because it has, as difficult as it's been, it has reaped benefits. So I think keeping that way of working going will help us as an ICS to sustain it.
Yeah. So whatever we do, we mustn't really take the foot off the gas. I think, if I can use that term, it's really important that we don't lose the momentum, because it would be very easy to say, well, we've made progress so let's celebrate what we've achieved, but continue the work. I think it's getting that balance right, isn't it? But thank you. It's really positive to hear some of those developments, Mary. So if there's nothing else, I think we're just asked to note the ongoing challenges and the improvements, obviously, that have been highlighted, and also note that the risk closure that has been indicated there in the report. Thank you. Happy to move on, Mary?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Mark, it's over to you for paper 15, which is the financial plan and delivery, please.
Thank you, Chair. So before I talk about the 23-24 position, I just wanted to just reflect on, normally at this time of year we're presenting the annual financial plan for 24-25. It's normally the bit of the year I get to present what we're going to do for the next financial year. Given planning guidance hasn't formally been published and we're still working through the financial numbers with NHS England, we're unable at this stage to ask the board to formally sign off the plan for the new year. As soon as we've got through that, we will bring a financial plan back to the board to formally endorse for the new year. So back onto 23-24 then. So the paper that you've got here today updates on the month 10 financial position, which takes us to the end of January, for both the ICB and for the trust, so effectively giving an overall system position. As we previously updated to the board, we undertook a detailed financial review of our forecast position back in November based on the national letter that came out from NHS England. As part of that process, then the ICS agreed a revised forecast outturn with NHS England of £64.1 million deficit, and that is shown on page 2 of the report and shows the split by organisation. You'll see then, in terms of that forecast outturn, that is consistent and in line with the expenditure run rates that we've been reporting all financial year. So effectively, it's the recognition with NHS England that those run rates and the drivers of what's in those run rates will continue for the rest of the year, and therefore that's why we've agreed a revised forecast outturn. As we know, those drivers predominantly are the non-delivery of our efficiency plans, and we've talked about that all year, and the fact that as we go into the new financial year, the delivery of our plans is key, but also the drivers in there around excess inflationary pressures. So it was welcome to hear in the news this morning that inflation continues to fall. We just need to see how that now works through in terms of the plans for 24-25. With the revised forecast outturn then, if you remember, we had a deficit plan at the start of the year of 19.2 million. So what that is now saying is we will be off our plan by £44.9 million. So we're going to be worse than what we said we would be by 44.9 million. At month 10 as well, we've also factored into our forecast the industrial action impact for both December and January. And we've now had confirmation that some additional funding will come through to support those costs we incurred, and we've worked that through with the trusts. The other thing I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, and it was pretty much late in the day, so we've included a small paragraph in the paper, is that we've now had confirmation from NHS England that we will get an additional allocation in month 11. So as I've mentioned, we had a deficit plan of £19.2 million. Effectively, because we had a deficit plan, from a cash perspective, that would indicate we're going to be short by 19.2 million of cash. NHS England have given us an allocation in month 11, which effectively means overall forecast outturn reduces to £44.9 million. Now, I do just need to point out that it doesn't mean NHS England have accepted and given us £19.2 million to write off that deficit plan. What they have done is given us cash so that we can continue to pay our bills and our suppliers in line with the best public sector payment code. As we know, all deficits are repayable, so the system will have to repay the £64.1 million as part of the current NHS England business rules, and any financial performance assessment of the system will be based on the £64 million. So I just wanted to say we've had that. You'll see a change when you get the final month 12 report, and it's in relation to that £19.2 million. So I'll stop there, Chair. Hopefully that pulls out the key points with in the financial position. It's consistent with the messages we've talked about all year, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments on the paper.
Thank you, Mark. So any comments or questions at this stage on the paper? There is a level of uncertainty certainly about next year, which is unusual, I think it would be fair to say, although there was some uncertainty at the start of the year, last year as well, but I think that it's at a level which is unusual, but certainly on this year, I think we're fairly clear about the position. So anything that anyone would like to raise? Okay, well, it doesn't look like there is. So I think, Mark, you're asking us to approve the sign-off of the 23-24 accounts to the audit committee.
That's correct, Chair. So
right?
we're just coming to the end of the financial year in 11 days. So again, we'll be into the accounts process. It doesn't feel like we finished the accounts process yet, but we'll be into the 23-24 accounts. Again, so I'm just asking the board to formally delegate that the audit committee can approve and sign off those accounts on behalf of the board.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Everyone content to do that? Yeah, okay, great. So that's approved. Thank you, Mark, for the update. And I guess given that we are still waiting for the planning guidance, can we just ask, Mark, that I know colleagues will be involved in various processes, both within their own organisations and then collectively in terms of responding to planning guidance when it does arrive, and you know, submission dates that are expected for the forthcoming year. Can you keep us up to date with some timely briefings as a board around that process, given our next board meeting isn't now formally until May? So I just wondered if you can clarify what the plan is around that.
Absolutely, Chair. So as I said, we're still continuing to work with NHS England at the moment on an acceptable financial plan that is based on what we think might be in the final published planning guidance, but until we see that, we can't clearly agree that plan. I will continue to keep the board updated, as I have done previously, with board briefings of where we're at and where the financial position is getting to, and we'll also be picking it up through the ICS Finance Committee and having more of a deep dive into the position there. But I'll do regular briefings for the board, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Okay, well, so we'll delegate that approval as requested in the report and note the position that Mark has updated us on. So thank you. And finally, we move on to the ICB Board Assurance Framework.
Yes, thank you.
No?
Thank you, Krishni. Okay, so this is the closing report for this business year, so for 2023-24. And it follows on from the January report, where we have set out how close we are to achieve the target assurance rating for all of our objectives and priorities. So that analysis has been continued within this report, within pages 2 to 5, where we set out the assurance for each deliverable for the end year, what the target assurance is, and then what the projected assurance was in January. So where we realistically thought we're actually going to end up by the end of March. And then year-end assurance is our actual final end-of-year position. On most occasions, this does tally with what we predicted in January. I think there are 4 occasions where we have either ended up better than we had thought we would, or a little bit behind. Obviously, the position with regards to urgent care that Mary had just reported on is also reflected here as a positive improvement too. So the individual kind of positions and rationales for changes in assurance levels are set out within the report, within each priority on pages 2 to 5, and the summary is set out on page 6 of the report. The second part of the report is then the report that we present here at every meeting, which is movements in risk score that have been opened and closed, and how that position relates to the previous reporting position, so in January 2024. And then finally, the appendix then contains the detail of the board assurance framework for all 6 objectives, with the rationales for assurance levels, sources of assurance, and gaps and mitigating actions. So I'm asking the board to note and gain assurance from the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Hannah. Any questions or comments on the board assurance framework report? Everyone happy to gain assurance from the content provided. So I'll assume there's nothing further on that. So, well, that means we have concluded all our formal business very speedily in the latter half of that meeting. So thank you, everybody. I think we've covered a lot of ground, but in a relatively shorter space of time. I do want to do just a very small AOB really before we formally close this part of the meeting, and that is that I believe that this is Sarah Dugan's last formal ICB meeting, Sarah as the Chief Executive of the Health and Care Trust, and I thought we should mark the occasion, but at least taking the opportunity to thank Sarah on behalf of the whole of Herefordshire and Worcestershire, and indeed the ICS and all the partners. She has, I know, I don't want to say the number of years, but I know it's been a long service, long and dedicated service to the NHS over a very long period of time. And we wish you all the best, Sarah, and want to thank you on behalf of the board for everything you've done and for being a great partner. And yeah, we're going to miss you from the board. I know Rob is sort of stepping into your shoes, but a very happy retirement, if that's what you're planning to do, on behalf of everybody.
Thanks very much, Krishna.
Thank you. And I know the trust will, I know Mark and the trust will, I'm sure, be doing whatever you allow them to do, Sarah, as far as giving you a proper send-off. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to mark that occasion. So thank you. Is there any other business that anybody wanted to raise whilst we have the opportunity? Okay, so I'm going to bring the meeting to a close. We do, just whilst we're here, mention that we have got our AGM planned for 12:45. I think I'll stick to that 12:45 time if that's okay, because it'll allow people the opportunity to have a short break in between. If there are obviously members of the public who are watching this who want to join the AGM, then I think there is an opportunity to do that, unless Hannah tells me otherwise or Tom tells me otherwise. I do think it's important to say, though, that this is an AGM relating to our report and accounts from 2022-23, and it is important just to say that, because and we'll explain the reasons for that for that as part of the AGM. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and I'll close the meeting there. Thank you.